Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai. All praise, honor, and infinite glory goes to Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Gakadash. Though honest apostles, nails a great millstone, rule well. It's like they still lack to push his truth in all sincerity. Through all of y'all, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Let me do another video. Okay. Today's video I'll talk about Esau is getting nervous, trying to mess up and disrupt news. Alright, so in this video, okay, basically I'll be going into Esau, he's talking about how all these different news sites, these different news companies, I will say, these different news, they're basically telling and saying that Google and Facebook, okay, needs to pay them, okay, to be able to have links of news on their sites, okay, you know. So then Google and Facebook are seeing that these news, okay, companies are doing that, so they're just like flat out, all right, well, F it. I'm just gonna separate, you see. So that's why a lot of people in Australia, this is specifically where it happened, and other places are talking about it as well. You know, around the world, they're all talking about it. Australia, flat out, on Facebook, they don't get that news feed area, you see. Okay, in Google, and when you go on Google, these different news links and the articles that you could just really go on, okay, you know, in particular companies, in particular news sites, okay, news channels, you can't, it's difficult, you see, you see. So basically, news, okay, is much harder to be accessible now. Because let's say people got their news from social media or looking at these different, by going online. Now, if it's extremely hard to do online, just about impossible, then what if they don't have cable? What if they don't have TV? You see? So news is hard to be accessed, okay? All of a sudden, because these news channels, companies, whatever you want to call them, these people are all of a sudden saying that Google and Facebook, okay, needs to pay them. All of a sudden. Clearly this is Esau, okay, on his mischievousness again, okay, making it harder to access news. Why? Because this guy hates getting exposed. Okay? He hates getting exposed. Esau, the scriptures talk about how the Lord's going to lift up his skirt. His skirt's lift up for all of his filthiness and stupidity, okay? Or all of his lies, okay, his mischievousness, okay? All right? And it's been spread about all over the internet. Now he's trying to limit things, okay? Make it hard to get news, you see? You know? Make it harder to get news. Well, if there wasn't particular alternative news sites that weren't on TV, and then you just found them online. Now it's harder to, that's hard to access now. You see? Difficulty in accessing news. Esau, all right, is just mad that he keeps getting exposed. Okay? He doesn't want the general public to know these different stuff that's going on around the world. Okay? You know? And other things. Okay? He wants people to not know what's going on in the world. Okay? He also wants people to not know if it's dirt. You see? Alright, so let's watch this video a little bit. And then get some precepts, and that'll be the end of the video.
History of digital news in, let's see if we can do it in 45 seconds. Publishing was once all about scarcity. One city had one or two newspapers. Then the internet changed everything. Abundance. One city, a million blogs. Google sorted the world's links. Facebook let everyone connect. And they made more millions, billions, fortunes by being the go-betweens, connecting you to me and you to news. News owners like Rupert Murdoch watched their relationships with readers get blown up by Facebook and Google. So they are trying to take back power and profits. Enter this week's big headline from Australia. Facebook banning news publishers from sharing links and banning you, no matter where you are in the world, from posting links to Australian news outlets. This is a retaliatory move against the Australian government's proposed legislation looking to force tech platforms to pay news publishers for the right to link to content. This means something dramatic, not just in Australia, but around the world. There are other proposals like this in other countries. And all regulatory eyes are now on Australia to see what happens next. Facebook's move to ban news basically had a global impact. You can see what happened right away. News traffic dropping on these Australian websites. Now, according to Reuters, there's so much interest in this that leaders at the G7 summit discussed the issue days ago.
See, if you want to send, something to a news outlet, now you can't do that. You see? Now you can't do that. To a news outlet that would probably, dish it out. Now you can't do that. Okay? So basically, news being way much more restricted, much more difficult. To be accessed. Okay? Less more news is being spread. All because now they want to control and get the money back. That's BS. All of a sudden, no, Esau's mad of his getting exposed.
Now, that is what Facebook has done. Google has taken a very different approach. Google has actually started to cut deals with publishers, including Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation. This means that Google is paying undisclosed sums of money to big news publishers. But what about the little guys? What about the upstarts that want to be the next Rupert Murdoch, the next News Corporation? What is the right way to rebalance the relationship between these technology companies that have gobbled up the world and news publishers that are trying to keep everybody informed? Can the relationship be rebalanced? How can the news be financed? That's what's at stake in this conversation. With me now is Stephen Guilbeault. He's the Minister of Canadian Heritage and a member of the Canadian Parliament. Minister, thank you for joining me. You're coming on because you're watching this like your fellow leaders all around the world. Is Canada going to follow Australia's lead?
Well, first, thank you for having me, Brian. A real pleasure to be here. Thanks. Second, I have announced publicly that I will be tabling legislation in the coming months to do, in essence, what Australia is trying to do. Will we follow the exact same model? Probably not. It's going to be a made-in-Canada approach because our institutions, our laws, our regulations are different. But in essence, yes.
So flat out, there you go. So people are trying to copy the same model, restricting news. All of a sudden, now they're mad at these social media sites. Man, BS. Now, also, now they're mad at Facebook. Now they're mad at Google. You see? So now everyone's talking about around the world. All of a sudden like that, clearly it's Esau back on his mischievous actions once again. Okay?
What is the argument for why Google and Facebook should pay news publishers? Look, they invented a better mousetrap, right? So why should they now have to pay up? Because a lot of these tech execs say this feels like a shakedown by news publishers.
Well, I would echo what your own House of Representative Cecilian or Senator Warner have said. This battle is at the very heart of democracy. Without a healthy media and news sector, we cannot have sustainable democracies. And what we're doing is just to ensure that Google and Facebook compensate fairly the media for their use of their content. That's what we're talking about.
Do we really want to get into the business of taxing links, though? I mean, Facebook is not, they're not hosting the news. They're just, providing a platform to share it. And then people click the links and they go off to a website and they view the news and they view advertisements there too.
Well, both these companies make a lot of money out of the news content that they use, and there's a debate, arguably, about how much money. And I've seen all sorts of figures floating around, and what Australia and France and us in Canada, but other countries. Just last week, I was on a call with Australia, Germany, France, Finland, and soon. Many other countries will join this initiative that was started by Canada to figure out how do we do this. And every country will go about it in its own way. But the essence of what we're trying to do is to ensure that we continue to have a healthy media sector. And that, I mean, it's not about overtaxing or some kind of tax grab. I mean, if these companies are making money out of the news content from publishers, then just like copyright for artists or musicians, they should be fairly compensated.
There has been a lot of debate about the Australian model, how they're doing this. You're saying you're going to look at a different model, right? Because some people are saying, hey, the idea here is right. Facebook and Google, technology companies, should pay up. But the way Australia is doing it is wrong. You're saying there will be a different Canadian model. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. But I mean, I should say something about what we've seen in Australia. I mean, Facebook didn't just cut link to news outlet, but also to government. To government websites, including websites. It's forest fire seasons right now in Australia. Information on COVID, suicide hotline, and I saw a Facebook spokesperson say that it was an oversight. Hold on a second here, an oversight? I mean, if we needed a clear example of why these companies need to be regulated, Facebook.
You see, all right. So basically, because of those cutoffs, because now they want. Okay, these Facebook and Google to pay up. Okay, there's limited new access to news. Okay, you see limitations. Okay, how much farther or more spins that Esau can put on this particular situation. Okay, you know, he could flat out just add some extra stuff like, well, to be able to you could just throw in a monkey wrench, just random as hell. Well, to be able to regulate everything, let's just, forget about alternative news sites. He could just say something weird like that. But basically what I'm trying to get across in this video, because of the limitation to news, it's that much harder to get news, You see? That much more harder to learn about get news. Slowing down people from seeing what's going on. And that's what Esau wants. Now, all of a sudden, the whole world wants to talk about this? Come on, man. Esau wants people to be slowed, For people not to think, try to make decisions. And the guy talked about that they also, cut off different news about even COVID. So now people just could be in the dark, very limited to what they see. You see what I'm saying? Not seeing a whole bunch of different stuff and then thinking, just seeing one thing, barely anything, and then just make a decision or barely think over that. Limitation to news, trying to bring control because he hates getting exposed. He hates that people are thinking and being like, oh, damn, man, shoot. Maybe this guy is just, bugged out. And he could just throw in a monkey wrench and just talk about some odd, I don't even want news on the internet anymore. What? Esau's a God to do something like that. Isaiah 25:7. He will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations. So the entire earth, all right, they're under Esau's, vibration, under Esau's lies. But the Lord is going to start taking that veil off, And people are going to start waking up and seeing, damn, all this stuff that this Edomite has been saying is lies. Something's not right here, you see? And what is one grand facilitator to help that happen? The internet. So that's why Esau is on a rampage trying to, hold the internet, control it. He doesn't want truth out. He doesn't want truth, and we obviously know the ultimate truth is this truth, the scriptures. He wants to regulate that. You know, that's the ultimate one he wants to do. So we know they obviously this could be a famine of word. Okay, got the scripture right here. You know, so we obviously know that Esau is going to tamper with the internet. Okay, you know, Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that I will send. Okay, a famine in the land. So read it again. Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Shem Yahushai, you know, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So we know that's going to be a famine of the word. Okay, this will be a time where the Lord is not going to actually have us out there preaching. Okay,